For 30 years, nothing on television had shocked Dr. Phil this much, until his own past found him. "Dad, you don't even know me anymore." The voice cut through the studio like a knife. Dr. Phil froze mid-sentence, his hands suspended in the air, his face draining of color. Every camera in the studio swung toward the audience. And there she was, the daughter he hadn't seen in 7 years, standing in the third row, tears streaming down her face. What happened next would become the most raw, unscripted moment in television history. The day had started like any other taping of the Dr. Phil show. Studio lights blazing, cameras ready, audience settled into their seats. The scheduled guest was Amanda, a mother of 3 struggling with her teenage son's rebellion. Standard fare for the show that had spent 3 decades helping families navigate their darkest moments. Dr. Phil walked onto the stage with his characteristic confidence, that commanding presence that had made him one of television's most trusted voices. He shook Amanda's hand, gestured for her to sit, and began the interview with his signature directness. "Amanda, you wrote to us saying your son has become a stranger to you," Dr. Phil said, leaning forward in his chair. "Tell me what's happening in your home." Amanda began describing the fights, the slammed doors, the nights her son didn't come home. Dr. Phil nodded, asking probing questions, building toward the breakthrough moment the show was known for. But nobody in that studio, not the producers, not the crew, not Dr. Phil himself, knew that the real story wasn't on the stage. In the audience, row 3, seat 7, sat a young woman named Jennifer. She wore a simple blue sweater and jeans. Her hands trembled slightly as she watched Dr. Phil counsel Amanda about her estranged son. With every word he spoke about communication, about being present, about showing up for your children, something inside Jennifer fractured a little more. She had bought the ticket 3 weeks ago. Had driven 14 hours from Dallas to Los Angeles. Had sat through the security screening, the pre-show warm-up, the producer's instructions about when to applaud. And through it all, she had rehearsed what she would say if she found the courage. Dr. Phil was in the middle of one of his famous reality checks. "You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. If you want a relationship with your son, you have to." "Dad." The single word stopped everything. Dr. Phil's sentence died mid-air. His eyes widened. His entire body went rigid. The studio fell into a silence so complete you could hear the hum of the cameras. "Dad, you don't even know me anymore." Jennifer was standing now, her voice shaking but clear. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. She just stood there, looking at the man who had spent 30 years telling other people how to fix their families while his own daughter sat in an audience, invisible. Dr. Phil opened his mouth. Closed it. For perhaps the first time in 3 decades of television, he had no words. The cameras didn't know where to point. The audience members closest to Jennifer turned to stare at her, then back at Dr. Phil, trying to understand what was happening. Amanda, still sitting in the guest chair, looked completely lost. Dr. Phil made a choice. He stood up slowly and walked toward the edge of the stage. "Stop the tape," he said quietly. Then louder, to the control room. "Stop the tape. Now." The red recording lights on the cameras flickered off. The audience stirred with confusion and whispers. Dr. Phil stood at the edge of the stage, one hand gripping the back of his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Jenny?" His voice cracked on the name. "It's Jennifer now," she said, and there was both pain and defiance in her correction. "You know that if you'd answered any of my calls in the last 3 years." The producers were frozen in the wings, not sure whether to intervene or let this play out. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was Dr. Phil. The man who controlled every narrative, who always had the answer, who never lost his composure. But right now, he looked like what he actually was, a father who had failed. "Everyone out," Dr. Phil said suddenly, still looking at Jennifer. "Clear the studio." The audience began murmuring. A producer stepped forward. "Phil, we can't just..." "I said clear it." Dr. Phil's voice wasn't angry. It was broken. Please! It took 10 minutes. The audience filed out, confused, some filming on their phones until staff made them stop. Amanda was gently escorted backstage by a producer who promised to reschedule. The crew retreated to the control room, leaving just the essential cameras running. And then it was just Dr. Phil and Jennifer, separated by 20 feet of studio floor and 7 years of silence. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil sat down heavily in his stage chair. He didn't ask Jennifer to come closer. He just waited, giving her control of the moment in a way he hadn't given her control of anything in years. Jennifer descended the audience steps slowly. Her hands were shaking harder now. When she reached the stage floor, she stopped, maintaining the distance between them. "Do you know when my graduation was?" she asked. Dr. Phil closed his eyes. Jennifer, May 15th, 2021. 3 years ago. You sent flowers. Very expensive flowers. They had a card that said proud of you, Dad. Your assistant picked them out. I know because they misspelled my major. The words hit like physical blows. Dr. Phil's shoulders sagged. Do you know when my engagement was announced? Jennifer continued, her voice gaining strength. Last year. November. I didn't invite you to the wedding because I knew you wouldn't come. But I actually hoped, that maybe you'd call. Maybe you'd email. Something. You got married? Dr. Phil's voice was barely a whisper. 6 months ago. His name is David. He's a teacher. He's kind. He's present. He's everything you taught millions of people to be and forgot to be yourself. Dr. Phil put his face in his hands. His shoulders began to shake. The man who had counseled thousands, who had never broken on camera, was crying. Jennifer's anger faltered. She took one step closer. I didn't come here to hurt you. Then why? Dr. Phil looked up, his face wet with tears. Why like this? Why now? Because you wouldn't answer any other way. Jennifer pulled something from her pocket, a small envelope. I've sent you 7 letters in 3 years. Birthday cards. An invitation to my wedding. Pictures of my life that you're not in. I stopped by your office twice. Your assistant said you were busy. Always busy. She held out the envelope. Dr. Phil stared at it like it might explode. This is my last attempt, Jennifer said. After this, I'm done trying. I'm done being the daughter of Dr. Phil who can't even get her own father to show up. Dr. Phil stood up and walked toward her. For the first time, he crossed that distance. He took the envelope with trembling hands. Can we sit? Jennifer nodded. They moved to the stage chairs, the same chairs where thousands of guests had sat over the years, where Dr. Phil had dispensed wisdom and tough love and reality checks. Now those chairs held a father and daughter who barely knew each other anymore. Dr. Phil opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph, Jennifer in a wedding dress, standing next to a man who must be David, both of them smiling. But what made Dr. Phil's hands shake was what was written on the back. Empty seat in the front row. Saved it anyway. Just in case you changed your mind. Jennifer. I watched you for years, Jennifer said quietly. Watched you tell parents to prioritize their kids. Watched you tell fathers to show up, be present, make time. And I kept thinking, when is someone going to tell you that? When is someone going to hold you accountable? You're right. The 2 words hung in the air. Dr. Phil set the photo down carefully on the small table between them. When he looked at Jennifer, his face had changed. The television persona was completely gone. This was just a man facing his biggest failure. You're absolutely right. About all of it. Dr. Phil's voice was steady now, anchored by something that looked like truth. I became so consumed with fixing everyone else that I didn't see I was losing you. I told myself the work was important, that I was helping people, that I was making a difference. And I was. But I used that as an excuse to not face what I was failing at. Jennifer's tears came faster. I needed a dad. Not Dr. Phil. Just a dad. I know. Do you? Because for years I've watched you give other people's kids the advice and attention you never gave me. I've watched you help strangers' families while ours fell apart. Dr. Phil reached across the space between them, his hand open, waiting. Can I tell you something I've never said out loud? Jennifer hesitated, then placed her hand in his. I was terrified, Dr. Phil said. Terrified that if I slowed down, if I stopped being Dr. Phil for even a moment, I'd have to face that I didn't know how to fix my own family. I could help everyone else because there was distance. Professional distance. But with you? With your mom? It was too close. Too real. And I didn't know what to do, so I just kept working. That's not an excuse. It's not, Dr. Phil agreed. It's an explanation. A terrible one. But it's the truth. Jennifer pulled her hand back, but not angrily. She just needed space to think. I'm not here for apologies or excuses. I'm here because I'm about to become a mother. Dr. Phil froze. You're 12 weeks. It's early. That's why I haven't announced it yet. Jennifer's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. And I keep thinking about what kind of grandparent you're going to be. If you're going to be one at all. Because I'm not raising my child with an absentee grandfather who only shows up in Christmas cards signed by his assistant. The weight of that statement settled over both of them. This wasn't just about their past. It was about the future, about a grandchild who didn't exist yet but whose relationship with Dr. Phil would be determined by what happened in this room, in this moment. Dr. Phil stood up and walked to the edge of the stage. He pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Jennifer asked. Calling my producer. Dr. Phil dialed without hesitation. Mark? Cancel the rest of today's tapings. I don't care. Reschedule everything for next week. Because I'm done for today. Actually, I'm done for this week. No, there's no emergency. There's something more important. My daughter is here, and I'm not leaving this building until we've talked. Really talked. And I'm starting by asking if she'll have dinner with me. Tonight. Not 3 months from now when my schedule opens up. Tonight. He hung up and turned back to Jennifer. I can't fix the last 7 years. I can't get back your graduation, your wedding, the moments I missed. But I can show up now. If you'll let me. Jennifer stood up. For a long moment she just looked at him. This man who was both stranger and father, celebrity and family, legend and disappointment. One dinner doesn't fix 7 years. I know. One conversation doesn't erase everything you missed. I know that too. But it's a start. Jennifer said quietly. If you actually show up. If you actually try. I will. Dr. Phil's voice was firm now. Not because I'm Dr. Phil. Because I'm your dad. And I want to meet David. I want to know about your job, your life, your friends. I want to know about your pregnancy, the symptoms, the due date, whether you're scared or excited or both. I want all of it. If you'll give me the chance. Jennifer wiped her eyes. Okay. One dinner. Tonight. But Dad? She met his eyes directly. If you cancel, if something comes up, if an emergency happens, I'm done. For real this time. I can't keep hoping you'll show up anymore. I'll be there. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Jennifer picked up the wedding photo from the table. David really wants to meet you. He doesn't know I came here today. I was going to surprise him if this went okay. Tell him I'm looking forward to it. Dr. Phil said. Then, carefully, tentatively, he opened his arms. Can I? Jennifer stepped into the hug. It was awkward at first. They didn't quite fit together the way they used to when she was young. But then Jennifer's arms tightened, and Dr. Phil held his daughter for the first time in 7 years, and both of them cried. The cameras in the control room were still rolling. They had captured everything. Later, the producers would ask if they could use any of the footage. Dr. Phil would say no without hesitation. This wasn't content. This was his life, his failure, his chance at redemption. It belonged to him and Jennifer, not to the show. When they finally pulled apart, Jennifer was smiling through her tears. Dinner. Tonight. 7 p.m. I'll text you the address. I'll be there at 6:45, Dr. Phil said. And Jennifer, thank you. For not giving up. For showing up today. For giving me one more chance. Jennifer nodded and walked toward the exit. At the door, she turned back. Hey, Dad? You helped a lot of people over 30 years. I just needed you to see me as more than another case you didn't have time for. You were never a case, Dr. Phil said. You were always the most important thing. I just forgot how to show it. I won't forget again. After Jennifer left, Dr. Phil stood alone on the stage. He walked backstage to his producer. Cancel the rest of this week, Dr. Phil said. I need to be a father. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. That night, Dr. Phil arrived at 6:42 p.m. When Jennifer and David arrived, they talked for 3 hours. About her work, his teaching, the pregnancy. Dr. Phil asked questions, really listened, and didn't check his phone once. Same time next week? Jennifer asked at the end. Same time next week, Dr. Phil confirmed. And maybe I could come to one of your doctor's appointments? Jennifer smiled. I'd like that. Over the following months, Dr. Phil restructured his life. He reduced his taping schedule and protected his time with Jennifer fiercely. He was there for the ultrasound, helped paint the nursery, and when his grandson Marcus was born, Dr. Phil held him with tears streaming down his face. Hey Marcus, he whispered. I'm your grandpa. And I promise, I'm going to show up for you. For all of it. I learned the hard way what happens when you don't. Jennifer watched her father hold his grandson. You're doing it right this time, Dad. I'm trying, Dr. Phil said. Every day I'm trying. The footage from that day never aired. But the lesson lived on, not on television, but in Dr. Phil's choices. He had spent 30 years teaching people how to fix their families. His daughter taught him how to fix his own. Some lessons take 30 years to learn. But they're never too late to start practicing.